The Constitution of the United States is a history of a vision, a personal meaning for every American citizen. In the next 5 minutes, I'm going to tell you about how the United States Constitution shaped the country we live in today. I have learned about the Constitution growing up when I was in high school. If you want to understand how our country was formed, you have to start from the very beginning. The 3 points I'm going to make to you are very important because they show how we are able to remain free. I'm going to tell you the 3 main functions of the Constitution of the United States. First, it creates a national government consisting of legislative, executive, and judicial branch. Second, it divides power between federal and state government. Third, it protects various individual liberties among American citizens. The first thing we are going to talk about is the separation of power of the 3 branches of government and how they are important. The government of the United States and the federal government is divided into 3 branches: the executive power invested in the president, the legislative power given to Congress, the House of Representatives and the Senate, and the judicial power invested in the Supreme Court and other federal courts created by Congress. Most important actions require the participation of more than one branch of government. For example, Congress passes laws, but the president can veto them. The executive branch prosecutes persons for criminal violations, but they must be tried by the courts. The president appoints the judges, but their appointment must be confirmed by the Senate. Let's take a closer look at the roles and branches that play in the Constitution. The legislative branch has powers in many areas, including taxing and spending, coining and borrowing money, controlling interstate and foreign commerce, maintaining an army and navy, and declaring war, as was stated by Applewhite in 2017. The executive branch president is the commander-in-chief of the army. He also has the power to grant pardons and perceives and the power with the advice and consent of the Senate to make the treaties and to appoint federal judges, ambassadors, and other public officers of the United States. The extent of the president's power over matters not explicitly provided for the Constitution is subject to debate. The power of conduct foreign affairs has held to be inherent in the office, but the Supreme Court has less willing to extend inherent powers in the domestic areas. Okay, then we have the judicial branch. All federal courts are under the Constitution courts of limited jurisdiction. They may hear only certain cases of higher power, which means they cannot perform non-judicial functions or give advice to the president or Congress about any lesser matters. The federal courts are also subject to the will of Congress, and so as if it distribute and even limit the jurisdiction in various federal courts, as was stated by Beaker 2018. The second thing we are going to discuss of the federal and state power is another important function of the Constitution. It is to divide between the national government and state governments. The division of authority is referred to as federalism. The federal court is very strong with much power over the states, with much power over the states. But at the same time, it is limited to the powers immersed in the Constitution. Powers not delegated to the federal government nor prohibited to the states are reserved to the states or to the people. Although the powers of the federal government are limited to immersed in the Constitution, those powers have been interpreted very broadly. And under the Supreme Clause of the Constitution, federal law is supreme over the state law, as stated by Shakia 2019. The third thing is how the Constitution protects the citizens of the United States. And the purpose of the Constitution is to protect the liberty of citizens from intrusions by the government. In my slideshow, I'm going to show you a picture of the Constitution and when it was signed. A few of the protections are found in the main body of the Constitution itself. For example, Article 1, Section 9 and 10 prohibits both ex facto laws, which prohibit the punishment of conduct which was not illegal at the time it was performed, and bills of attainder, which single out individuals or groups for punishment. Most constitutional protections for individual rights are contained in the Bill of Rights, which can constitute the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. These amendments were adopted shortly after the adoption of the Constitution itself, in response to the concerns about the Constitution's lack of protections for individual rights. The Fourth Amendment also contains equal protection clause, which protects citizens for discrimination by the states on the basis of race and sex. As I come to a conclusion, I have shared with you the importance of the Constitution of the United States. I have explained to you how the United States Constitution shaped the country we live in today. I have shared with you what I learned about the Constitution in high school. I have explained to you how the country is formed around the Constitution. I have also discussed the three branches of government and how they come into play into the Constitution. That concludes my speech, and I thank you for listening.